Hello, Leila, and
Hi.
hi, and welcome to the Vulnerability Rocks podcast. How are you
You.
today?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well. I'm super excited to be here with you, Emma. I'm so excited.
I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you.
I was sent one of your posts by somebody that follows me on Instagram,
Mm.
and I just had to reach out and connect with you. And I'm so grateful that you said yes to coming on the
Oh,
show. It means an awful lot to me that you said yes and that you're here today. So thank you very much for your
thank
time in
you.
advance.
Thank you.
Layla is 39 years old. We are the same age.
Mhm.
Um, every blonde needs a brunette, and that is what we are. I can see you. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see. And Layla is a self-mastery coach, author, and speaker. And I also note that you have a podcast too. I went on and had a listen at one of your episodes.
Ooh.
And
Mm.
I also noted that you have a following that you very lovingly and nurturingly call your trailblazers. And I love that.
Oh, that means the world.
I love that. I think it's
Yeah.
wonderful and inspiring. And when I listen to you, I can feel that you're leading, which is a lovely feeling when I listen to someone to feel like I'm being led. And that's how I felt when I listened to you
Oh.
talk.
That is amazing. That feedback, because the thing is, no one, unless you ask for feedback very specifically, you won't know, how others perceive you and stuff like that. So I really appreciate you sharing that because I would have no idea that that's how others are seeing me. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's how you've made me feel. So now I got pulled to your post,
Mm,
not for the rainbows and the glitter.
mm,
Okay. I'll be really real with you. I got pulled to your post. It was compelling because it was so raw, so honest, so vulnerable, so open, so brave. And I resonate with parts of your story. And I feel very lucky that you're here to talk today
mm.
about some matters that I understand. Um, I can feel and I can see are difficult topics for anybody to discuss in any arena. So I would like to talk a little bit about some of the things that you've overcome that have led you to be the leader of the trailblazers that you are today. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel that in life, it's a sad fact, actually, that some of the most incredible people I know and there's some of the most incredible people that I'm inspired by have been through some of the toughest, most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching experiences that I've ever had the privilege of being shared that experience with when they
Mm,
choose to share their story with me. And I feel like these other incredible humans that I've had the honor of meeting, you are one of these humans. And I'd love to hear a little bit
this
more about your story. I'd love to hear a bit more about your
one. Oh,
story. So
yeah.
there's a few things that came up.
Hmm.
You made reference to some abuse during your childhood years.
Mm,
You also made reference to being led to a place where you attempted to take your own life.
hmm. Yeah.
Um, and also, there's elements of the first two parts I can relate to. And then the next part, I really have no way to relate to. And I'm very interested to understand more about this, is the forced engagement that you
Mm,
went through and where that led to,
yeah.
actually. So
Wow. Yeah.
where would you like to start? Because this is your story. So where do you want
Oh,
to
bless
start?
you. Yeah, I really felt the love in how you've just shared that. Um, the thing is, like with me, when I made the decision a couple of years ago, about 7 or so years ago, to set up my own business, it was really because I wanted to. I've always been a natural leader without having ever decided that I'm a leader, and I knew that authenticity was one of my core values because I could never. I'm a teacher by profession and by background, and I hated sitting in the staff room and having lame conversation, and telling it like it is, like having conversations about things that really didn't matter and didn't mean anything because of the depth of pain that I had been experiencing. I really didn't care what was going on in EastEnders or Coronation Street. I was just like, how am I going to actually keep myself safe? That has literally been the story of my life. And so when I made the decision to set up the business, I really had dug deep quite a lot already, but I knew what I wanted from this experience. And I have felt that I'm a trailblazer, which is where that name came from, because we attract into our world those who resonate the same or
Mhm.
resonate on a similar vibration. So I knew that I had overcome so much and that I wanted to connect with those who were challenged and struggling or had overcome things themselves. And this is where the name Trailblazers came from. And so I suppose honoring that core value of authenticity within myself meant that I would share as much as like 98, 99% of my
Mhm.
life without um without kind of censoring myself, because I feel through my life experiences that I have been censored so many times.
Mhm.
And and so my childhood was marred by physical, emotional, and mental abuse at the hands of my family. And I grew up in a very, very violent, toxic, dysfunctional kind of family dynamic. And it was incredibly difficult. Of course, it was incredibly difficult. It's traumatic. I, in my mind, with let me just go back actually one step. So, my dad wasn't present in my life. He was physically there, but he was emotionally completely unavailable. And we lived in a Victorian house in London, and my mum and myself and my two brothers at the time, and my younger sister came 13 years later. So my brothers and my mum, we would pretty much lived in a small room, a really, really small room. And this was our kitchen, our living room and everything. And it was, my mum had her own challenges, and my family are from Pakistan
Mhm.
originally. And so she was young when she came to the UK. And when she had me, I think she was only 18 or 19 years old. And it still gets to me so much now when I think about how much she went through, where she was in this country where she couldn't speak the language. She was not in a happy marriage at all. There wasn't as much family support that there could have been. And then she had the wild child, me. And I was this rebel tomboy that was just like born saying no. Literally. I was like, I am not going to wear that dress. I want to wear jeans and I want to play football with the boys. And I was crazy. I want to climb up roofs and I want to jump off them like parkour, and I want to cycle. And I was crazy. I was crazy. I've got so much energy in me and masculine energy. So when I was younger, I didn't know this, of course. And my mum tried to find ways to like calm me down. So I crocheted and I did embroidery and all these amazing things. But there were challenges in between that, So
Mhm.
she was trying to deal with so many things herself, and she faced racism as well. I witnessed her being racially abused.
Mm.
It still gets me. It still gets me. And so, as the eldest and the daughter, she had very high expectations of me. And like, I did my absolute best, I did my absolute best to be that kind of good daughter. But when you're growing up and when you're a child in that kind of environment, Love, unconditional love for your parent, um, kind of gets mixed up with empathy and compassion and danger as well. And so all of that stuff was mixed up, and I knew, of course, I knew that I loved my mum and my family, but I wasn't safe. And so the other thing that happened was when I thought this had happened when I was 10. So the mind is incredible, and the soul as well, in terms of protecting us. But I thought that I had been sexually abused when I was 10, 3 or 4 times. And actually, the first time it happened, I was much younger. I was 8.
Mhm.
And it was only about a year and a half ago that this was confirmed through some readings. And it just hit me like a light bulb. I was like, that actually makes sense.
Mhm.
And so growing up in that environment, not feeling loved, not feeling valued, not feeling safe, literally looking for a parent's approval and love, and my dad in particular. It was always that the little girl who's seeking her dad's approval. It was always there. Like, he died, uh, I think it'll be about 5 years ago now. And after pretty much just, moments after he died, um, I said to one of my cousins, was he proud of me? Was he proud of me? And she said, yeah, he was. And the thing is, when you're growing up, you're looking for those clues, and when you don't have that external validation, you have to seek it within. And these are obviously raw experiences, and I don't ever want to be the person that loses my heart or loses this vulnerability, because it's through this space, when we're feeling what we're feeling and we keep going, that courage is present. That
Mhm.
courage and bravery is present. Um, so when I was about 16, 17 years old, um, the expectations were already starting to be set that I would have an arranged marriage. And so, actually, I needed to backstep. So 12 years old.
I'm
Everything.
dancing with you. I'm
Are
dancing
you?
with you. Wherever you step, I'm with you.
Thank you, my love. Thank you for holding the space. I really appreciate it. Yeah, so by the time I was 12 years old, obviously I could not handle, no child can ever handle that kind of abuse and that kind of rejection and abandonment, and the desire and the innate desire for validation and approval. So yeah, by the time I was 12, I attempted suicide. I had had enough. I did not want to be alive anymore. I hated myself. The language in my mind was the language of my mum, and it was incredibly negative and critical and confusing. And like, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. And I didn't know which way to turn. There was nobody that I could trust, because how it is in pretty much most cultures, there's that gossiping, and a cousin you might tell a cousin this, and then they go and tell their mum or dad, and then they go and tell, and it goes all the way around. And so I literally had a sense of not trusting anybody. So at 12, it was quite fascinating, because I attempted suicide, and it was a wake up call. I'll never ever forget the moment I had a conversation with God straight after. And I remember saying to God that I'm alive. Okay, fine, I'm alive, I'm still here. I don't want to just be alive. I want to feel alive. Like, I want to feel alive. I want to make the most of my life. And I remember making a promise, and that promise was that, I asked God to help heal me so that I could help others to heal, and so that
Mhm.
I could help my mum to no longer feel the pain that she was going through, and so that I could give her a better life and help her. And so at 12, it was a spiritual awakening. Essentially, it was my first spiritual awakening. And it was when I made the decision to walk my path with God, and to kind of ignore or not care about what others thought of me, because other human beings couldn't protect me, and I needed that guidance and that love. So that was at 12, and then 16 years old, my mum wanted me to marry a cousin of mine. And at that age, you do what your parents want you to do to some extent, especially in my case. But I knew that I didn't want to marry this cousin. I knew I didn't want to be married. And it was fascinating because it took 5 years of me saying no for that engagement to actually be over. But it wasn't even over because it was over. It was because I moved away and I left home, and I was disowned, and it was just like, I don't want this. But it fascinates me because a man's voice is so powerful. A man's no is so, so powerful. If this cousin had said, I don't want to, he said to me, I don't want to marry you. I'm just doing this because this is what our mums want. And I was like, that's not what I want. I want to be loved. I want to be in a loving relationship. And it fascinated me because if he had said no, the moment he would have said no, it would have all been done. It would have been over. The moment, simply because he's a man. And I lived with that for such a long time. And I was like, I'm going to fight. I have to fight for my freedom, because I knew that I would not be safe. I knew that if I got married to this person, and at that age as well, that I would have, either I would have been killed or I would have taken my own life. There's just no way.
So dance back with me.
Yeah, let's go.
Dance back with me. So I'd like to ask you a question about when you were 12. And thank goodness you found a way to connect with your higher power and have that enlightenment and move forward and save your life.
Yes.
If that's what you did, you saved your own life through believing and through creating hope and trust in something bigger than us. So that's a lot to do, and it's hard to do when you've reached that hopeless space. But just before you managed to find that redirection, can you remember how you felt? And could you or would you share with me how you did feel before you managed to find that redirection? Because I think it's important to, some people who've never been in that position really struggle to understand the real weight of the feelings that a human being can feel at such a time.
Yeah, beautiful. So, it's interesting because in another podcast interview, the interviewer asked me the same question, and I love that you've brought it up, because I felt inadequate. I felt worthless. I literally felt worthless. I felt like I can't do anything right. And in my mind, I was in this space of, deep love from my angels. I've always felt a presence, angelic beings, ancestors, so much love from the spirit worlds. And literally, like, that's literally saved my life as well, to have that deep and clear connection with my guides. And so there was so much love that I felt when I was in my inner world, and so much confusion when I was looking outside. Yeah, and that confusion was like the feelings wheel. It was pretty much all of that stuff, was so much of that wheel. The anger, I mean, I love that we've got it up here, feeling literally so angry, feeling full of rage, confused, frustrated, lost, Like,
I
who
hear
the heck? Do you know what I mean?
you.
Like, lost between these two worlds, because our life experience is actually an inner experience,
Hmm.
and the outside world is just a reflection of what's going on inside. And so it was that there was so much love, angelic love, yet this whole outside external world was just confusing, because it was just so much of this wheel, and it was
Yeah.
really, really hard. It was very, very difficult to carry the burdens, because here's the thing. I was trying to stay alive. I was just trying to stay alive. And when you're trying to do that, um, you kind of just have to do whatever it takes to make sure you're safe,
Hmm.
you know? But then it never felt safe, being born into the culture that I was born into. And so when I talk about culture and religion, I'm never criticizing the culture or the religion.
Hmm.
It's more the practice or the interpretation or the misinterpretation that other humans have created.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the truth has just been lost in all this, like, whispers here, whispers there, and misinterpretation. And so being born a girl felt really like, it felt like a burden. It didn't feel safe.
Hmm.
Being born in an Asian culture, which is so much beauty. And I love the focus in so many kind of Muslim cultures of community and taking care of each other.
Hmm.
I didn't feel like I had that very much, but I
Hmm.
also innately never fit in. I was always that outsider. And I didn't care. I was just like, I don't care about the culture. I don't care about this, that, and the other, because I literally need to keep myself alive, because
Hmm.
things don't feel safe. So that's where I was at. Like, I just
Hmm.
I wanted the pain to end.
Hmm.
There's a deep part of us when we're that low, where we don't necessarily want our life to end. We've just come to that point where it's like, I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. I do not know where else to turn,
Hmm.
and I just want the pain, the
To,
emotional pain to end.
to
That's what
end.
it comes down to, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you and I feel you on that. And I have, for very utterly different reasons, I have been in a space where I have been so lost and felt like every little light of hope has switched off, and desperate for the pain that I paid, the physical and the emotional pain, to end.
Mm.
Um, so I hear you and feel you on that. Um, Now, in terms of expectation of you as a daughter, and this is the bit I would love to try and understand more about the expectation on you for an arranged marriage ultimately.
Yeah.
I'm sure after an arranged engagement comes an arranged marriage.
Yes.
Explain to me, I'm a girl from Brighton,
Mhm.
you know, and I this to me, I don't understand it and I don't have any experience of it,
Mm.
and I don't have any experience of what the weight of that expectation must feel like as a girl growing up. And I'd love to understand more about what that actually looked like and felt like for you, and what
Yeah.
ultimately it would have meant had you have chosen not to leave your family, which we'll come on to in a moment.
Yeah. I no, you know what? I so love that you've asked this question, and that we're diving into this, because of all the interviews that I've done so many over the years. I've never been asked about that experience, and I have often thought, is it because most of my audience, or a lot of my audience, aren't Muslim, and so they won't resonate? And it's not that they're not interested, but they just don't get it. And so I've not shared it, which is to my
Mhm.
own detriment, because actually there is incredible value in it. So thank you for giving me the space to talk about that. So yeah, so with the arranged marriage aspect, Within the Quran and within Muslim cultures and communities, arranged marriage is the way that relationships and marriages started, oftentimes. Um, but it's also something which has existed in many other cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and the royal family we know have had arranged marriages, and in
Mm-hmm.
China and Africa, and many parts of the world, where the family are essentially bringing two people together to be married. And one of the reasons why arranged marriages are so focused on for the younger generations from like 16, 17, 18 onwards is because Islam forbids dating or sex outside of marriage and so on. And so that's why there's such a big focus on being married at a younger age for a lot of people, but I'd say from like 16 to 21.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and arranged marriages, I think, a lot of my family, of course, a lot of my friends as well have had arranged marriages, and they're genuinely happy. Like they're really, really happy, and they've got children and so on, and they're doing great. And they've always been the ones that I've kind of looked up to. Um, but then there's also those arranged marriages that haven't worked out, and
Mm-hmm.
um, that just weren't a good match in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, I was always looking at relationships. I was always looking at who was married, who had an arranged marriage, who had a love marriage. And there was nobody in my family that had a love marriage. Literally, I think for generations and generations, it was always arranged marriage. And I knew that having an arranged marriage was not for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasoning was because, and again, I say this with my mum, considering what she was going through. So I want to really hold that compassionate space for her. She was doing the best that she had to do, right? She could do. She was also under incredible pressure as well, to have me be married. And she chose somebody that she felt would keep me safe, not the person, but his mum and the family. So she was just like, they'll be able to take care of me and so on. But it wasn't a decision based on personality or character, or it wasn't a deeper look into who I am and who he is or anything like that. And so she made the decision based on where she was at, and that's it is what it is. But she didn't give me that space to decide for myself, is this even what I want? In fact, both of my parents wanted me to marry somebody of their own choice. So it was a choice between two, but it wasn't a choice of, do I want to even be married? It was a choice of, you're going to get married, and here are two,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so this is why I'm so passionate about free will and choices, and reminding people in every single situation we have a choice, and that choice might not be told to you by the person who's making you choose something.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to retrieve those choices yourself. And so in Islam, arranged marriages are encouraged. And as I kind of started to dive deeper into the Quran and um, learning about the kind of how it should be done, I learned that marriages should not be forced. No union or relationship is allowed to be forced, because if it is, then that goes against Islam and what we're taught. And that for me was my saving grace, because I was like, you guys are doing something that's wrong. You're going against what Islam teaches us. And to be honest with you, a lot of people don't realize that actually Islam teaches you that you're not meant to force a marriage, and you're not meant to force an engagement. The choice has to be between the two people, and it's only between them and if they want to. So there can't be any external pressure or exertion at all. And so there were just so many parts of this that just didn't feel right to me at all. And I knew that if I got married to this person, that my life would be over. And I knew this because I get premonitions and visions, um and powerful dreams, which are signs and symbols, and they're significant. And I remember this dream that I had where I literally was in like a spiral, and I felt like my life was going to be like this if I did it. And it just felt, you know, when you've just had that feeling and you're just like, if I do this, this is not going to turn out well.
Mm.
And I knew that was again God's guidance, you know, because this was like 4 or 5 years after having my first, like, my spiritual awakening at 12. And so I just knew that was a guide, that was a guidance, that I had to fight for my freedom. And yeah, it wasn't easy at all. It was a very kind of lonely time, because everybody, you know, in my family was having arranged marriages, and there was no one
Mhm.
fighting, you know, to say no. And I was like a lone ranger. I was on my own. Yeah.
So this was 16, and you said that this idea and the arranged engagement was something that was kind of expected. Did you say for 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years. Yeah.
So this went on until you were 21?
Exactly, yeah, 21, 22. So at that
Mm.
age, I was obsessed with French. I was obsessed with languages. I grew up speaking Punjabi and Urdu and Arabic as well, and English.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was about 9 years old, we did some French lessons, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm meant to do. And I knew when I was 6 that I wanted to be a teacher. So at 9, I put the two together, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be a French teacher.
Oh my
So
goodness, I wish I'd had that much enthusiasm for French.
Oh, if only I had been your teacher. I had
If
so
only
many.
you had. I wish I'd had that much enthusiasm for languages.
Honestly, I made languages fun.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So studying French was my saving grace. It was literally like I could focus on something that had nothing to do with anything that was going on in my life. You know, I could literally, I'm such a geek, and I would sit there with the dictionary, and I'd have my notebooks, and I'd be writing, and I was obsessed. And so as part of, so when I was about 14, I was working with a counselor at school from the age of 12, actually, after the suicide attempt. The school had set me up with a counselor. And at the age of about 13, 14, I remember my French teacher saying to me, oh yeah, you know, when you study French at university, you spend a year abroad. And again, it was like, oh my God, light bulb moment. Because to me, that was my escape, and it was my
Okay.
freedom. And
Mm-hmm.
so from 14 to 21, 22, I was so focused on manifesting my escape, and manifesting moving to France, and manifesting speaking French fluently and teaching French, right? This is literally, this is what saved me. And so when I was 21, 22, as part of my degree, I spent a year in France, and that was my breakthrough and my breakout. And once I knew, and I know some family will listen to this as well. It was such a long time ago anyway, but I knew that I was never going to come back home again after I left for France.
Where
I
did you
just,
go in France?
oh, so I went to the Loire Valley, to a place called Tours.
Okay.
Yeah, which is about 45 minutes or an hour outside of Paris. And
Okay.
it was just so beautiful, and the university was great.
And
And
how old were you when
yeah,
you were in Paris?
so I was 22, 23. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I lived in Paris
You
when I
did?
was at yes, when I was 20 to 23.
Oh my God. Do you know it would be amazing if we actually walked past each other?
Do you think we're the blonde and brunette versions of each other? Because I think we might be. We're the same age. Are we secretly twin sisters?
I think we might be. I think we might be. Do you know, honestly though, because like, do you know what I mean? That would
How
be
funny.
how cool that we're gonna have so many other conversations. It feels like we're even doing the same kind of things as well. Like, I think so.
It's feeling a bit like that, I'll be honest. So you escaped to France. I mean, I never
Yes.
thought I would hear someone say that French was their saving thing, but you know, I'm rolling with it.
Go with it. Go with it.
So French saved you. I mean, French was just, you know, my worst nightmare, and for you, it was your dream, which is just amazing. And you were in France speaking French, and I was in Paris struggling to, you know, order a cheese pizza and get home.
Oh no!
Oh no, terrible. So you spent a year in France?
Yeah, so I spent a year in France, back and forth as well, and it was amazing because honestly, it was the first time that I was free and I didn't know what
Free.
to do with myself, and I was just like, and I could just breathe and I could just feel safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
that was you resonate.
I get that feeling.
Yeah.
So I when I was 15, packed a bag and left my house. And I remember my family were all in the garden doing the gardening, and I'd been asked to come downstairs and help in the garden. I'd refused and stayed in my room. And I remember looking out in the garden, seeing them all and thinking, yep, today's the day I'm going to go. And I just packed a small bag. And I was never given a key to my house anyway, because I wasn't trusted to have a key to my home. So I just walked out, and I remember that door clicking behind me, and nothing's ever felt so glorious as that click. Yeah. And I walked down the alleyway, and I had nowhere to go. I had no money. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just never felt more alive. And all I kept thinking, I didn't care that I hadn't planned where I was going to sleep that night. I didn't care that I didn't even have any food in my bag. All I thought was, I'm free.
Yes.
And now things can begin. And yeah, so that feeling, I'll never forget that feeling walking down that alleyway. I'll never ever forget it. It was so liberating and so powerful.
Yeah, I totally feel it.
Yeah.
And it's like when you've like, people don't just think about running away or leaving just like that. Generally, it's because it's something that has built up and over time, and there might have been fleeting thoughts once in a while, but it's because there's so much going on. You just know that you don't want to be where you are, you know. And I used to
told my
pray
father at 11, I said to him,
yes,
I said, as soon as I can, I'm out of here.
yeah.
And he used to say, no, you won't. You'll never be able to do it. There's no way you'll be able to look after yourself. There's no way you'll be able to financially support yourself. And I remember him sitting me down and telling me and making me, going through everything financially and showing me how I would never be able to financially support myself ever.
Wow.
Basically. That was his lesson. Wow. And I remember thinking, you just watch me.
Yeah.
You just watch me. And it doesn't, and I remember thinking at that point, so he'd demonstrated financially it would be impossible for me to support myself. And I remember thinking, fine, I'll have to find a way without money then.
Wow.
Do you see? So you know, what did it teach me? It taught me I'll do it with no money then.
Yep.
Okay, I'll find a way without money then.
Wow.
You know.
And did you leave at 15? That was it? You didn't go back?
I left and I didn't go back. I think I went back for a month or two, but that was shortly after I got sexually assaulted by my uncle, and everything just went a bit chaotic. So I got brought back into the home for a couple of months, but it didn't last because the reasons were still the same.
So it was exactly the same for me as well. Literally, I went back home for about a month or 6 weeks, and it was exactly what you just said. The same, the feelings were still the same, the reasons and the behaviors and the attitudes were still the same.
Nothing had changed.
Yeah.
So there was no, there was no radical transformation. It was still just as oppressive and suffocating as it ever was.
Yeah.
And although I was grateful for the reprieve with the roof over my head, and life was a bit chaotic, it nothing had changed. All those years, 16 years, hadn't changed. So I was gone again within a few months, and never went back.
It's so hard. So hard.
Yeah, because
the
choice was I carry on bending and falsifying who I am and putting myself into this mold to dance on eggshells to keep this person happy, but ultimately utterly miserable inside, self-harming, all of these things, or I escape.
Yeah.
And at that point, there's only one choice to be made, or there was for me.
Yeah. You get to that point, isn't it, where there isn't even a choice. You just have to do what you know you have to do.
Yeah.
Isn't it? And you just have to trust in the universe. Just trust it's all going to work out, and it's not easy, but somehow or another, the universe has picked us up and made sure we've had food, had shelter, had clothes, and by the will of our kind of strength and courage, and by that will that comes from within, we've made successes of ourselves, and it doesn't matter what it looks like to the outside world, because when I define success, like for me, it's about that inner peace. It's that inner groundedness that I know who I am. That's it. That's flipping success, considering everything, considering where we've come from and what we've experienced. So it's like, all the money in the world, great. How do I feel within myself?
Money's never been a motivator for me, and it's an interesting conversation, because yes, okay, money is nice, but maybe that's funny, just talking it through real time with you now, maybe that's where it comes from. I got taught a lesson very early on that what I wanted I was going to have to do with no money, so therefore money doesn't mean anything to me in that respect. I respect it in terms of what it can give you and what it can help you do for life and others and for good, but I know whatever happens to me, it won't be defined by money.
Exactly.
Ever.
That's
because I don't need money. That isn't, money won't be the thing that saves me or breaks me ever.
I love that. That's so beautiful, because that's what it is. It's a tool. Money is a tool, and it's it's an energy, and it's the energy of give and receive. That's all it is, and so when we focused on soul growth, the money has always come, because in the process of focusing on soul growth, which is essentially, for many people and many women like us as well, it's about moving out of poverty into abundance. It's moving out of poverty mindset into abundance mindset, moving out of I'm worthless, I'm useless, I'm inadequate, I'm wrong, I can't be myself, I'm trapped. That's poverty mindset, to abundance mindset. I'm free, I'm sovereign, I'm divine, I'm loved, I'm cared for, I'm creative, I'm resourceful. That's abundance mindset.
You're completely right. I mean, my family home was a big detached house. On the outside, it looked like we had everything, that we didn't go without. But I felt poor.
Yes.
But when I walked out with nothing in my bag, not even some food, I felt like I had the world in my hands. And I never felt more rich. And I remember my first bedsit that I moved into, that was £55 a week to rent, and I didn't have a Hoover, I didn't have a bed, I just had a sheet and a pillow on the floor, because I had afforded to pay for my rent and my bills and some food. And I felt so full, and I cleaned my carpets with a dustpan and brush, and I cleaned it thanking thanking, like
Yes.
just thanking, like I can't believe I am this lucky that I have my own piece of carpet that I can clean on my terms, my way.
Oh,
And I felt richer then than I felt in that huge house.
wow. I totally resonate with you. I completely, totally get where you're coming from. It's the small things, you know, it's the
Mm,
small things like when we've had to fight for our freedom, just simply the freedom to be happy, there's simply the
hmm.
freedom to just be ourselves. The small things are what we're grateful for. It
Oh,
doesn't matter to have millions in the bank. Literally, it's like, it still gets me. Have I got food? Have I got a house? Have I got clothes? That's what matters. And then the rest of it is, yes, money is a beautiful tool.
mm-hmm,
It's a tool that the universe has
hmm,
provided us with. It's neutral. It's not good. It's not bad.
hmm,
At the end of the day, working on our soul growth, that's where the abundance is.
hmm,
That's what abundance is.
hmm.
And I love how you've shared that. I really do, because I've often felt, I teach money mindset, um, and I've often wondered, like, some people just don't get it. They just don't want to get into the details to understand that money's not about money, or manifesting money is not about manifesting money. It's about your energy. It's about how much you love yourself. It's about how
Hmm.
worthy you feel. It's about how deserving you are. And when you feel worthy of your house or your vacuum or the cooker or the microwave or the
Mm.
new trainers you've just bought or whatever it might be, you're richer, far
Mm.
richer than having the millions in the bank.
My partner always says to me, you never worry about money, Emma.
Yeah.
And I say, because I know that even if the worst possible thing happened, I sometimes said to him once, I said, I think I'm like a cockroach. He said, what do you mean? I said, I said, think I'm like a cockroach. Doesn't matter how ugly it gets, I'll come crawling back out. It's all right. I'm resourceful. And he's like, well,
I love that.
he's like, I'm not sure about the cockroach analogy, but you get what I mean. I don't have that fear around
Yeah,
lack of, and
beautiful.
we ebb and flow through life, and sometimes in wealth, if you were to look at materialistic in money as a materialistic thing, sometimes you have more, sometimes you have less. But
Mhm.
I'm very grateful for the fact I don't have a fear around that
Beautiful, yeah.
as a thing, because I know that there's so much I can do things without it or with it or whatever.
Yeah, you'll figure it
So
out. You'll figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah. So you came back from France and you spent a short period of time at home,
Yeah, yes.
and then
Yeah, yeah. It was actually a promise from my family that they're not gonna make me get married to this cousin. Um, and actually it was a lie because that was still going on. Um, so I was in a relationship from about 19, 20 years old, and my first partner, and he was from the Caribbean, so he was a black guy, and we got on great. We got on really, really well. And again, I had a vision that he was coming into my life. I just knew before I even met him, and I was like, oh, okay. And we were together for 10 years. Um, and then he cheated and he did some stuff, and then I divorced his ass. You know?
well done you.
Yeah, exactly. 10 years later. But in between that journey, I told my family that I was with somebody and that he was a good guy and that I was going to marry him. And to me, it didn't matter like that he wasn't Muslim. Um, he never told me that he was going to convert. He never spoke to me about converting to Islam. I actually love that about us, that he never told me, and it was just something that he always felt guided to. So he converted, and we had the nikah ceremony, which is like the Islamic wedding process or ceremony or blessing. It's not a blessing actually. It's literally like the vows. And
Okay.
so I told my family that I was going to be with him, that I was going to get married, and so on. And they were they hated it. They were just like, no, he's black. You can't marry him. And it was a nightmare time. It was actually a crazy, crazy time, because here I was saying what I knew I wanted and what I wanted from my life, and I was not being allowed to have any of that. And they wanted me to marry this cousin, and I knew I was incredibly alert to the fact that if I continued, um, that I would very likely face, an honor killing. I could have been a victim of an honor killing, and I was
Wow.
scared for my life. And he was, the guy was as well. Matthew was as well, and my friends were as well. School and uni and college, people were really, really worried about me. And thankfully, like, God had my back, the universe had my back, I had my angels guiding me, helping me to pull up this courage from somewhere,
Mm.
Honor killings were starting to be talked about in the UK in around, it was about the year 2000, 1999, 2000, 2001. And there was a high profile one, which was a Turkish girl who was murdered by her dad because she wanted to marry somebody, I think outside of the culture or something, I can't remember all the details. And that was happening at a time when this all felt incredibly real and raw.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the risk that I was taking. I knew, like, I've actually faced death threats all my life. I never share this on social media. Like, I've faced death threats from when I was younger. Like, when you hear your parents saying, I'm going to kill you, I want you dead, and you're dead to me, which is what my family had said to me after I left home, and they disowned me as well. When I said, "That's it, I'm going, I'm leaving, I'm done, I'm never coming back." Hardest decision ever of my whole entire life, to leave my little sister who was only 9 or 10 years old at the time,
Yeah.
to leave my mum, despite what our relationship was like. I love her deeply, I want her to be happy. She's my mum. I
Yeah.
could see the pain that she was experiencing, but there was nothing I could do to help her. And so when those threats came in that were very real, we're going to kill you, we're going to find you, and we're going to kill you, I just had to take that deep breath in, walk out that door, never look back, and just pray to God that I was going to be okay and make a success of myself. And it was hard. Graduation
Mm.
day, family turned up. When I was at uni, security knew not to let my family in, not to tell them where I was. Looking over my shoulder, it was flipping hard. It was hard. Yeah.
Crumbs. That is, I mean, I can't relate to any of that part of your story, but that's a lot to deal with for any human being.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a
Um,
life.
yeah, it's been about 10.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I've often said I feel like I've lived like 100 lifetimes. God, can I have a break now, please? I'd like a holiday in the sunshine. A lovely ice cream would be great.
Oh, bless you. So she's like, I've had about 10 lives.
Exactly.
Your soul is
Like
about
this.
80 years old. And then, so you decided to do these things for yourself, take this step away, go on your own journey and adventure, I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
Since that
Yes.
point, because what you're manifesting for yourself and in terms of your job and the people that you're influencing is so incredibly positive. And I just love that you are now in this very strong, empowered place that belongs to you and
Oh,
that you thoroughly deserve, because life for everybody has its ups and downs, and for you it has been a challenge, and that is a polite way of putting it. It's been full on, and thank you so much for sharing your story with me, and for trusting me with your story, and how these monumental challenges have made you feel, and given me some insight to try and have some understanding about what that looked like and felt like for you in those moments. So thank you very much.
Oh my God, it's been such a pleasure. It really has been such a journey, such a life. Like I knew that this was a soul growth journey, and I knew that I'm a very wise old soul, and that I'm here to teach, that I'm here to do big things. And I knew that I had to go through stuff to retrieve the wisdom, to retrieve the
Mm.
lessons, to retrieve the treasure and the gold, and that my duty was then to share it with others. And so, yeah, this soul of mine, had some tough experiences planned for me, but that resilience has come from deep within, that courage and that faith. And I teach it. I've got one of my books, all of my books are always from a heartfelt place, but in here, in 101 plus ways to move.
Wow, look
Yeah.
at this. You
I'm
can't
gonna send you a
see.
copy.
Yeah, Leila,
Oh yeah.
will you? Leila is
Yeah.
holding up her book, and it is called 101 Ways to Overcome Life's Biggest
Plus.
Obstacles. Plus
Yes.
101 plus ways to overcome life's biggest obstacles. A guide to
Yeah.
handling any problem with ease. And I'd
Yes.
like to add another word to the end of that: grace. With
Yeah.
ease and grace, because that is what I see, Leila, is ease
Yeah.
and grace in you, in the
Thank
way that you
you.
speak, in the way that you handle yourself, and the way that you have shown up with me today is beyond graceful. And I'm in awe of you.
Wow, thank you. Honestly, like you've held such a beautiful, safe space for me. And do you know what? I'll be completely honest. It has been a long time since anybody outside of my culture, or the culture that's on my skin, has actually asked me about the experiences that I had, about the arranged marriage, about the forced engagement, about all of that. It's been such a long time, and I really feel refreshed from it. And I feel like I've been playing small. I've been hiding that part of myself to try and fit into the entrepreneur box, and actually that's where my value is. And I love how you honestly shared that you couldn't relate, but somehow you've connected. And I'm curious about that bit. It's like, what did you connect to? What did you connect with? And maybe that's something that I can take into my work and share it with the world. Um,
So for me,
yeah.
I can't understand that part of your story because it's not part of my world.
Mm.
But what I heard out of that was this strong desire to be,
Mm.
that you had this overwhelming desire to be, and to be true to you, and to be safe being yourself. And
Yes.
that bit I can connect with, because I think it is a fundamental human need and requirement if we are going to be sustainably happy in this life, is to have that acceptance of who we are. And all the time that we are bending and shaping ourselves around somebody else's ideals, wants and desires, we are never going to achieve that. And it's the ultimate self-betrayal. And that part I can really connect to. And I wanted to understand, not necessarily, I wanted to hear what the experience was, but I wanted to understand how you felt. Because in understanding how you feel and listening to what it was that you were needing in that moment, I think that's where we can find connection, even though our experiences are so very different.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, I really felt that. You've just articulated that so perfectly, because that is what this human life experience comes down to. It's connection. And
Mhm.
we can have very different lived experiences, but if we can find the connection, that's where we are all one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm just going to do a little disclaimer to anyone listening. I did check in with Leila prior to the call. Are there any questions that are off limits before you just feel like I've interrogated?
Oh yeah.
I did get the green light.
I did say it's absolutely fine. No limits.
Well, people are thinking, Emma, wow, what did you do there?
It was amazing. You were amazing. Thank you.
To finish up, I would like to ask you 5 questions.
Ooh.
Not as tough going as the questions I've just asked you. So, what can't you live without?
Oh, such a good question. Oh my God. Okay, the first thing that came to my mind was I can't live without dark chocolate with orange dark chocolate.
Very good. What are your 2 pet peeves?
Oh, rude people. Yeah, rude people. And I suppose, impatience. Yeah.
For you or others?
Good question. I think it's both. It's both like impatience, my own impatience, and when others are impatient.
Okay. What is the most unusual thing that you've ever eaten?
Oh God. Oh, okay. So first thing that came to mind is snails. When I was leading a trip to France and the kids were daring me, they were like, "Oh, miss, eat snails, eat snails. If you eat them, then we'll eat them." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And I ended up having about 10, and I was like, "Right, you'll go." And then, yeah, I don't think we felt very well after that.
How were the snails?
They were actually quite nice.
I've never had them.
Very garlicky.
Oh, that might have been the saving grace.
Yeah.
What are you reading or listening on audiobook to right now?
Oh, that's such a good question. I have got a couple of different books on the go. So I'm rereading Think and Grow Rich.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been meaning to start Maya Angelou's book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I think that's what it's called.
I have not read that book,
Yeah.
but I would love to read that book.
Yes.
Amazing. Yes. And 2 more. I lied.
Okay,
2 more questions. What's one thing that can instantly make your day better?
A smile.
Good.
A smile, like a genuine, sincere smile. That can make my day. Yeah.
Very nice. And do you hit the snooze button or do you wake up immediately?
I totally hit the snooze button.
She's a snoozer.
Yeah. It's like snooze. Okay, I'll wake up in like an hour and a half's time and I'm like, oh my God, the day's gone.
And that's it. So Leila, thank you so much. Tell our listeners where they can find you.
Come follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, so it's at Leila A Khan, Leila Khan, and also my website as well, so lifeistodayacademy.com. And I'm all over the place. I've got my podcast, Rise and Thrive podcast. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm literally everywhere. I think I need to take a social media detox. But then I think people will miss me and I'll be like, look, go check out my videos. I'm around.
And I will add all of these to the show notes so that you guys can find Leila. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. It has been fabulous speaking to you today and a complete honour to be in this space with you.
Thank you so much for being so amazing. I love your presence. I love your love. You've really held space for me, and I completely, totally get you. Vulnerability rocks. And,
yes, it does.
It really does. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.